Hey, what's up, everybody? We're finally live, and I'm joined here with my coworker, Alex. How you doing, Alex?
Hey everyone, I'm doing pretty good. A little bummed out by the weather today. It's been sunny, and then today it got dark. Maybe it's just the region I'm in Berlin, but I'm still not used to the idea that you can have below 5 degrees Celsius temperature, and the sun is you still feel cold when you're basking in the sun. So
Yes.
that's still odd for me. So yeah.
Yeah. I know. So, just for some context, a couple of months ago, we went on like a team offsite. We were in Germany, and I got to talk to everybody on the team for the first time. And I was telling everybody, including Alex, that the weather in California, where I live, is always warm and nice and sunny, and it's usually hot. Well, this year, for the first time since 1997, it was actually snowing in my city just a couple nights ago, and it's been freezing. And there's been we're so not used to the cold here that there was actually a state of emergency declared in California for us because there's a little bit of frost on stuff. So
Interesting. And just how do people take care of the heating? Do you? I know the houses in Germany usually come with heating. So do houses in the US also come with heating as well?
Yeah, they come with like AC units that can heat the house up, but nothing like there's no like wood stoves or anything like that. I mean, there is if you buy them, but yeah, it's just AC units.
Oh, cool, interesting. Today I learned. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, aside from the weather, we're excited to jump on stream with you guys today and share just a couple of things. We've got a couple of cool guests that we're going to be talking to. We've got Serhii from the dev team. He's going to be talking about a new feature of Prisma. I won't spoil anything there, though. And Jiasheng from ZenStack, which is a super cool project that we'll be talking about a little bit later on. But before we get to all of that, what we're going to do is, like usual, we're going to walk through the release notes for 4.11. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen up, and we'll get that going. I probably should have pulled this up beforehand. Let's see. There we go. I think I'll bump that size up a little bit.
I think you might have to, what's the word? Expand your window because it's like a tiny rectangle right at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's because you're on a very tall monitor. I'll move you over to another monitor.
And now we can see the notes for the release.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not the notes for the release, but the helper notes. Yeah.
Here we go. This is the right screen here. There, that's what we're looking for, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the font is just right. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Cool. So yeah, we've got a short but very cool list of features that were released in 4.11. So I'll go ahead and jump in. The first one here is the JSON protocol early preview. And so just in a nutshell, I won't go into too much detail about this because this is actually what Serhii is going to be telling us more about. But this is an internal piece of Prisma about how it communicates with the engines. So it communicates with the Prisma query engines. Previously, as it mentioned in here somewhere, this previously was a different protocol. We would use something else more similar to GraphQL, but now we've moved it to a JSON protocol to make things smaller and more efficient. The details on that, I don't actually have for you. That's why we have Serhii here. So he's going to tell us a little bit more later on about why this was a good move and where it's actually going to be useful. So for now, I'll just kind of skim over this one. We'll get more to that later. Next, what we have here is introspection support for MySQL, SQL Server, and CockroachDB views. We've recently added support for views, and this was a very sought-after feature of Prisma. But as we're developing on this feature, we're sort of taking it one step at a time. And previous to 4.11, when you introspected your database, if you were using Postgres, you would actually get your views back from your database as well. With this release, now that also works with MySQL, SQL Server, and CockroachDB. So this whole feature around views is still a work in progress, and we're still pushing this forward. So if you can and if you're interested, please give this a try and let us know how this is working, because we're actively working on making this work nicely.
And I think the last database should be SQLite, correct? I'm not sure if MongoDB supports views.
Yeah. I am not sure either, and I would assume they don't.
Okay.
But yeah, I think SQLite will be the last one coming up. Cool. Every other database we support is kind of just a variation of Postgres or MySQL, so it should work fine with all those. Lastly, this is another one of those ones that people have asked for a while. We had dozens, if not more than dozens, of issues related to this, where people are trying to use Next.js and Prisma together in a monorepo, which nowadays is a pretty common setup. A lot of people are doing this. But when you did that and when you had your monorepo set up a certain way, you would get a nasty error that looks something like this, where your schema.prisma can't be found, even though all of your project is set up how you would normally set it up outside of a monorepo. As this mentions, we finally found the issue that was going on here, and we actually opened an issue with the Next.js repository. So hopefully we'll see some progress on that. We've had some communication there, and it looks like we're moving forward. But now that we found the issue, we were able to actually build something to solve it for now. This is just a workaround, so it's not a complete solution. The solution will be actually fixing the internal bug. But for now, we built this Webpack plugin that you can use with your Next.js configuration. So you can add it to your plugins option here and just import this plugin, instantiate it, and then add it to the plugins. And then what this is going to do is it's going to copy over the files that are missing in your monorepo setup to the correct locations. That way Prisma can find them. And I'll actually be demoing a little bit of how to set this up and get it to work a little bit later on. And aside from that, we've got our usual long list of fixes and improvements from internal members and awesome community members. So if you're interested in what else has changed, check out the lists here. And aside from that, I think that's about it for the release notes today. And I think we can get going to the next section, where I'll be actually, Alex is going to be demoing the raw query stuff for us. So let's see here. I think we can move on to that. I'll go ahead and transition over. Cool.
So it's going to be a little disappointing, but there is no demo particularly, but more like highlighting something that we shipped in 4.11 but skipped in the release notes, and we'll update it immediately after what's in Prisma, and that's the support for adding raw query support when using client extensions. So as you can see, this was previously not possible. So right now you can now add at the query level, it will allow you to modify, say, your raw queries by accessing the arguments. And if you want to do any form of kind of data manipulation, validation, if you want to do caching, this is where you'll be able to handle it. And I think we will be adding support for caching raw queries in Accelerate soon. So I'm expecting that it would use this API. So this is what it looks like in for relational databases. And for MongoDB, you can use the run command row to run raw queries for you. So give that a try. I know a lot of folks have asked for it. Let us know what you think of it. If you run into any bugs, hit us up and we can share it with our engineering team to get it fixed. So yeah.
Awesome. And I have a link to the documentation. This didn't make it into the release notes, but it is in our docs. So if you want to read more about how to get this working, the page that Alex was just on is right here. It should be in the comments now.
Cool.
Cool. So I think we'll move on to the little demo that I have. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now. So what I'm going to be going through is just this this Next.js Prisma Monorepo setup workaround that we have. So what we're starting with here is we have a PNPM monorepo. We've set it up with workspaces where we have a bunch of different packages. And our packages right now contain a DB, which is where we have Prisma configured. And within this setup, we have Prisma Client outputting into just a client folder here. That way it stays contained within its package. This is how you normally set it up in a monorepo. And then we have an index.ts file where we're just instantiating and exporting the Prisma client. So this is all just a pretty normal setup. This is sort of what you would expect a DB service to look like in a monorepo. And then within service, we have a Next.js app. And what this app has is it's actually just a API route named tests. And all it does is it imports Prisma from that DB, which we have installed into this module. And we use it in a handler. And the way we're able to actually import it using DB here is we've installed it. Let's see, we've installed it as a workspace package. So we're actually just directly accessing it from here. So this seems like a pretty normal setup. And this is how a lot of people are configuring their projects. But what they're running into is when they actually go into the packages service, when they actually go into the service to run their Next.js app, it'll start up fine. They'll open up their application. If I can get this open, moved to the right screen. If we head over to /API/test, this is the error that we find. So your schema.prisma cannot be found, and we detected that you are using Next.js. Find out why. Previously, this was a different error message. We've cleaned it up a little bit for the 4.11 release. But this is what you're going to see. This means that there's some problem. It can't find your schema.prisma. And what we've determined is that this is because when Next.js actually bundles your application, it's putting all of your code into one place. However, the Prisma client code actually expects schema.prisma to be in a specific location in relation to it. So when we bundle this code, what needs to happen is the schema.prisma and the query engine files need to be copied over to the output location of the Next.js bundle. That wasn't happening before because it wasn't actually part of the Next.js project and because it wasn't a TypeScript file or anything like that, so it wasn't handling any of that. So what we've done instead is we've actually built a plugin that will fix this. Yep.
Quick question, sorry to interrupt, but does it affect all package managers or was it also specific to PNPM? I'm just curious.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I would expect this problem to be on other package managers as well, depending on how you have it set up. If I understand correctly, the package that we've written to work around this is specific to Next.js, but it at least sets the stage for what it should look like to fix on other platforms.
Okay.
So yeah, the next step here is going to be within our service project. We could actually install the package. Let's see if I can find it. Actually, just go to the docs to get that. So you can find the details for how to fix this. If you head to the top, the docs here, go to guides, troubleshooting, and then using Prisma Client in a Next.js project with the monorepo. If you scroll down a bit, you can just copy this line here. This is where we install the Webpack plugin. If you're wondering what's going on with the mouse, for some reason my mouse does not like that I'm streaming. Or something like that. Something's going on. Unsupported protocol. Oh, here we go. npm. So we've installed that package. It should be available from package JSON now. And at this point, we've got it available so we can import it into our nextconfig.js. And I'll just copy over the import here, make it easier on me. And then with that, we can now add it to our list of plugins here. So just to keep it the same as how we have in the docs, I'll copy this over. It's going to be within this Webpack key, which takes in a function with the configuration and another object. And this just determines if we're on the server or not, or if we're on the client. So if we are on the server, we want our plugins to contain this Prisma plugin. So with this provides the Webpack plugin that will actually copy over those files now when the build is run. So that alone should be enough to get this working again. So if I run npm run dev, and then if I head over to the client here, let's see. We should see now I get an empty array. There's no data in my database, so nothing is going to be returned, but we don't get that nasty error anymore. So this has been a pretty prevalent issue. I won't pull it up now, but we've had, like I said before, dozens, if not close to 100 issues specifically related to this. So hopefully this solves the problem for everybody. If you were running into something like this, please do give this a try. We want to know if this actually fixes your issue. It's fixed it on all the use cases we could find so far. So we're pretty confident that it's going to work well for you. And I think for my demo, that's about all I had. So I'll go ahead and remove my screen. And what we're going to do next is we're going to transition over to a little chat. We're going to talk with Serhii from Prisma. He's going to tell us a bit about the JSON protocol and why it's important to you. So I'll transition over to that and see you in a second. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good, pretty good. And I can confirm that it was sunny today in Berlin.
Do you enjoy it though?
Oh yeah. Like I haven't seen sun in 4 months, so.
Oh boy. Okay, yeah. I can understand why you would enjoy it then.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to have you. Just for the people watching, this is Serhii. He is a developer at Prisma, and he. Serhii, did you work on the JSON protocol?
Oh.
It's all good. It's all good. My cat knocked over something.
Classic cat move.
Yeah.
I was
course,
one
on
of the
stream.
developers on JSON protocol. Like not the only one, but like one of the couple of people who worked on it. And
cool. Yeah, very exciting. So this is something that it's internal, so not a lot of people have had eyes on this or looked at it, but it's something that I'm pretty excited about to see coming through. But before we start asking like questions about it and stuff, can you just tell us a little bit about what this feature even is and why it might be important?
So for some of the users who like read a couple of our documentation on our internals and so on, they know that Prisma consists of 2 components, TypeScript client and query engine, which query engine being written in Rust. And those 2 parts need some way of communicating with each other. Previously, before Prisma 4.11, and actually in Prisma 4.11 by default, they communicate using GraphQL-like language. It's not 100% spec compliant GraphQL, but it looks very much like it. So what happens is when you write, for example, like Prisma find unique by email, TypeScript client will then translate this into GraphQL query, send it to the engine, and engine will do all the work needed for talking to your database and give you results back. One of the issues with that was that specifically in our case, this GraphQL-like language required a lot of metadata to perform this translation. So we call this DMMF, or data model meta format. And this is a large block of JSON describing all possible inputs for all possible Prisma methods you can possibly invoke. And problem with that is, first of all, it's like quite a sizable chunk of JSON. So it actually affects your bundle size if it's included in the bundle. Alternative to including is in the bundle is we have to request it on the first query, which also takes time. And specifically, if you're running it on serverless, that's like quite costly because you're not benefiting that much from like caching it on subsequent requests. It also takes quite a good chunk of memory when it's loaded, and this is permanently, and this affects also like not only serverless apps but like normal traditional server one.
Gotcha. So when you say it doesn't only affect serverless but also traditional, is this going to be something that's available on all Prisma clients, or is this just the Edge client specifically?
No, it's available on all clients. It's more beneficial, I guess, like to the Edge client data proxy clients, and sorry, it's more beneficial to people who run it on serverless, regardless of like what clients or what engine they're using. Gotcha. But for example, total memory consumption should go down on even in traditional.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, very cool. And now you said a second ago that with the GraphQL protocol that was being used, it wasn't as easy to take advantage of caching. Is that because GraphQL, the caching would be going through?
No, I don't mean it. It's in like for GraphQL specifically. I mean it's for like serverless app. So like when we request this metadata, we actually cache it, so it doesn't happen on every request.
Oh.
But in case of serverless specifically, like if it's not that long-living function and it might get killed, and you don't get this advantage of this being cached for subsequent requests.
Gotcha. Okay.
Start again.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So, as far as the like planning that went into putting together the JSON protocol, what was sort of the like catalyst that made us want to move this way? Was it exactly that? Was it just the serverless experience sort of making that work faster?
Yes. So like one of our goals in the recent times was improving Prisma serverless performance. Actually, not only performance, but overall serverless experience, and performance was just part of it. So as part of this initiative, we looked at our cold start performance, we looked at our overall performance, and we found, we also measured, for example, how performance changes with your schema size. And this result of this work was, it's like, yes, this metadata I mentioned before is one of the biggest contributors to cold start performance, and one of the biggest contributors to sort of like dependence between schema size and performance.
Gotcha. Very cool. And so I think this might bleed in a little bit into the demo you have for us, but what are the findings so far? Has this been really effective from what you've seen as far as getting things to work a little bit faster in those cold start times?
Yes. So we actually had a couple of reports from users who already tried it out that, for example, they couldn't deploy to Cloudflare workers because they have a memory limit of like 128 megabytes, and like they couldn't just use Prisma with that limit because they had pretty large schema, and just a default Prisma client's memory consumption was over this threshold. And once they switched to JSON protocol, they could deploy it, and it worked normally. That's another part of our measurements is that's I mentioned before that we measured dependence between performance and schema size. And previously, like time it took to perform the first query was growing linear with the schema size. Now it stays almost flat in our tests. So we are not actually getting penalized for having larger schema when you're using JSON protocol anymore.
Man, that's awesome. That's something that I've heard brought up in a lot of different contexts on Twitter, on GitHub, on Stack Overflow, is that exact issue. So that's cool to hear that this should solve that. I'd be interested to see this in action. You said you had some sort of demo for us?
Sure. Let me present my screen.
Cool.
Also, just out of curiosity, were there other protocols that we kind of considered before settling on JSON, by the way?
Yes, we actually considered a bunch of different formats we could exchange between engine and client, and we actually found that if you consider that data have to be serialized on Rust side and parsed on JavaScript side, it's really hard to beat JSON performance. So at part it was like surprising even to us, because we would absolutely sure that like something like binary message pack or like protocol buffer would win over JSON, but this was not the case in our measurements. Consider also we would like things to be human readable, so there was like hardly any reason to pick anything else after our initial investigation.
Gotcha.
So
cool.
now you should see my screen. Can you
Put it
read
up.
the code?
You might want to bump it up a couple times.
Sure. Oh.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah. Okay. So in my demo, I have a pretty large schema of like roughly 100 models. We are not be using all of it. We'll actually would be querying just this model. What demo is doing is basically creates new Prisma client. It establishes database connection, and now it calls simple query. It reads the table completely, returns all the data, and it measures how much time it took and how much memory it used in the process. Okay. So let's try running it, and you can see it took 100 milliseconds, and JS heap size, once it's ended, it's at 50 megabytes. It's actually like, if you rewrite, if you rerun it consistently, that's getting those results pretty consistently. 100 megabytes, 100 milliseconds, 50 megabytes.
Now, just out of curiosity, so the people listening have some context, can you sort of quickly explain what the performance.now function does and the process.memory usage, what that actually represents?
Sure. So like as soon as your Node.js process starts, performance.now, so it has internal counter for like how much time passed since the process started. That's what performance now returns. So that's like high precision time. Unlike, for example, date now, which is has much lower precision. This is much more precise.
Gotcha.
Process memory usage returns memory usage of Node.js process. It returns a bunch of numbers. So heap total is the size of JavaScript heap used. You can also get total process size, so including Node.js internals and all native code. You can get like preserved heap size, which is like not used, but it's reserved by the process, and so on. It returns the size in bytes, so just to convert it to something more readable, we convert it to megabytes.
Gotcha. So heap total represents the heap size of the current running process?
Yes.
Okay.
Used heap size, because there is a little bit more reserved for.
Okay. Okay.
And now all we have to do is we have to go to our schema in preview features. We have to add JSON protocol preview feature, and we need to regenerate the client. And once we run the demo, we see that first query took 4 milliseconds, and
yeah,
it is set at 12.
Sheesh, that's a pretty significant difference there. That's pretty crazy, actually. I haven't seen these numbers yet.
To be fair, like that's only first query. So like in normal with GraphQL protocol, only first query is penalized. Once you go past that, your normal numbers will be more consistent.
Okay.
Below 100 milliseconds. So that's. But this number, JavaScript heap, it's we shaved 40 megabytes of it, and this will stay consistent.
Gotcha. And so this specifically this JavaScript heap number here, this is what's going to make sort of the edge and serverless experience better, because it's not taking up that precious memory that you have that's very limited.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Man, that's pretty awesome, actually. So I'm trying to think of what sort of the implications of this are. So this just allows you to use Prisma Client more consistently and more I guess, comfortably within a smaller memory-sized system.
Yes, and also in a system where you have limited runtime, because that's getting this metadata also used to take time, and this is actually what those 100 milliseconds are, which we're missing in JSON protocol. So, for example, if you enable JSON protocol, you could use a lower, maybe runtime limit on Lambda.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. And then you had mentioned before that this isn't really affected by the size of your schema. So if your schema was significantly bigger even than this one, or if it was smaller, those numbers should be roughly the same. It doesn't really matter on that.
Yes, those two specific numbers should stay roughly the same regardless of your schema size. Native memory still grows a little bit with your schema size on the engine side. However, we are at the moment thinking about what we could do about it. So there is a chance that there will be improvements in that area in the future as well.
Cool. No, that's really good to know, because that size exactly right there is something that I've had conversations with a couple of different people about that have sort of hindered them from using Prisma on serverless. And I mean, this is going to be big news for them. This is going to be a very cool feature for them. It's crazy how these sort of internal features that people don't really think too much about can make such a huge difference on the end user's side. It's super cool to see these in action.
Also, just curious, I sorry to ambush you with this question, but do you know how soon we expect this to go into general availability? And...
so yeah, I have to play John Carmack here and say when it's done. However, there are a couple caveats in 4.11 release. First of all, this is first time this feature is released publicly, so be aware that it's not as well tested as GraphQL implementation, and some things might be broken. One big limitation is query validation. So, for example, if you submit invalid query to Prisma JavaScript, you might have actually seen just Prisma shows nice error message pointing you hey, this field is not what it's supposed to be, and trying to give you a suggestion and try to give really helpful message. In 4.11 release, this part is missing from JSON protocol. What you would see is engine internal message, which might be difficult to decipher in this case. We are going to address it really soon. I think next 4.12 release of Prisma should improve the situation in there. As I mentioned, that's early preview, so there still might be rough edges in some places.
And also, when we'll be moving into GA, will JSON be the default? And will it be considered a breaking change? Just curious.
It probably would make sense to have it even though we try to achieve 100% compatibility, it's probably would be a good idea to do it in major version regardless, because it's a big change. However, we have not discussed that with anything at the moment, so that's on that I cannot really say anything concrete.
Okay, that actually brings up a question for me. Is this intended to be an eventual replacement for the GraphQL protocol? Is that not going to be an option anymore? Is that all going to be removed, or is this just going to be one of two options?
So it's again we don't have formal decision. GraphQL protocol will probably stay for a while in there, because aside from official TypeScript clients, we, for example, have third-party clients for us to go Python, Dart, and so then they at the moment rely on GraphQL protocol as well. And it would be nice to give them some time to explore new things and migrate.
Yeah, very cool. Oh, this all looks very exciting. I mean, like I said earlier, I hadn't seen these numbers yet. I was kind of waiting so I could see your demo, so I could, it'll be a surprise, and it was actually. This is super cool. can think off the top of my head like 5 different people that I need to show this because we've talked about it in the past and they need to see it. So and now we've got it on video and I can send them a link. So that helps me.
And reading the output, it feels like a couple of Easter eggs, by the way. A hacker news comment awarded with
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of them didn't fit on the screen. So
Okay.
Nice. Cool. Well, Sergey, thank you so much for hopping on and showing us all this stuff. We really do appreciate it. All the work that you guys are doing is super awesome. And just over the last couple releases, it's cool to see this push towards serverless. This whole initiative's got me and a lot of people pretty excited. So very cool stuff.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I think with this, we'll go ahead and let you go, Sergey, and I think we'll move over to the next segment. So in this next piece, what we're going to do is we're going to have Jiasheng on. He's from ZenStack. This is a cool project that uses Prisma, and I'll let him explain more what it does. So I'll just transition over to that, and we'll have him on in just a sec. Hey, I think you're muted.
How about now?
Oh, perfect. We can hear
Sorry.
you. No, that's no problem at all. How are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So I want to start this off with just sort of a little bit of an intro of you. Who are you? What do you work on? What's your background a little bit, just so that the viewers can get to know you a little bit.
Okay. My name is Jiasheng. I came from China. I'm now living in London. I'm a software engineer and also the co-founder of the ZenStack library. And after graduation, I joined the Microsoft in the protocol suite team and working on building tools to help people to diagnose, analyze, test, and even generate documents for the protocol. And the interesting part is that during that time, we developed several DSL actually, and the one I'm actually working on called the OPN, Open Protocol Notation. So that's we use that as a single source of the protocol. So you just write the model for the protocol, it will generate the parser, codec parser, and also the documentation, and also the test code for it. So when I first see the Prisma schema, I just had a special feeling for that. And after Microsoft, I joined a startup company called PPMan, and I'm as the engineering director to build the SaaS product for the data analytics. It's mainly targeted to help the product team and the marketing team to get more understanding from their user behavior by the data collected from the website, also from their database, or from the third-party SaaS product. And I think, although it's a very small company, and we managed to build 4 different products, and 2 of them starting from scratch. And during that time, I had the chance to learn the front-end development, also the back-end development, in order to move faster for the whole development side. Then I think during the last year, because some family reason, I need to move to London. So I just quit from the last job, and that's when I started to build the ZenStack.
Awesome. That's super cool. It's awesome to hear that you had sort of some experience that sort of related to Prisma type things with these domain specific languages and working with data. And it sounds like your move to London, like you just picked up doing what you love there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So that's awesome. That's cool to hear some of your story a little bit. And so it sounds like towards the end of the story, that's sort of when ZenStack started. That's when you started working on this a little bit.
Yes.
Cool. So can you tell us a little bit of what ZenStack is then?
Okay. By the way, I recently read a book called Start with Why. So probably I'm going to start with why I built ZenStack.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Yeah. So as you guys see that all my career is actually around building the tools. Although I'm not initially picked up that, but I do find a great joy and a sense of achievement in creating the tools that could help other people. So after quit my last job, I'm wondering how can I still go along that road and to provide the greater value. So after some thought, I think the answer is quite straightforward. So create things that other people can use to create. Yeah. So when I got, so that's the why part. So the next is coming to what part. What should I build? So reflect on my own. So I found that my most significant experience is still in the software development area. So I'm very grateful that I have the opportunities to work in the Microsoft and the PT-Man because I gain a very diverse experience, like working on the big company and the very small company on the front end and the back end, and from some feature development to the code refactoring, and even to starting a totally new application from scratch. So as a result, I think to build a full stack toolkit that could help other developers to build their app more efficient and more reliable. That should be a very suitable target for me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. We totally understand that sentiment here at Prisma of building tools that other people use to build things. We all get excited about that. So you're in good company here.
Yeah, thank you.
So you've built this toolkit then. So what exactly does that mean? What does this toolkit come with and provide to someone who's building an application?
So actually the goal is that one side for the experienced developers, I think they could still continue enjoying their knowledge and skills, but to be able to move a lot faster, solo or just with some small teams with the help of the stack. And on the other side, for the people new to software development, I hope that this stack could serve as an easy ladder to reduce the frustration, keep things safe, and help people to get the quick orientation in vast amount of knowledge and choices in the software industry. Yeah, so in a nutshell, I think it's just to help people to build the web application easier, so much easier than before, I think.
Yeah, that's great. There's, like you just said, there's so many options out there, so many things to think about when you're putting together even a simple application. And the biggest thing that I get to see on Twitter all the time is there's so many opinions out there on what the best tool to use is. It's nice to have a toolkit that sort of gives you some options and lets you work quickly in those. So that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. But also that's a good thing, actually, thinking about the full stack concept. I think it's changed a lot because this emerging new tools coming up recently. I think before, I think the full stack is just front end plus back end. Like me, I just learned the back end for several years in Microsoft and then several years in the PT-Man. Then I might call myself a full stack development engineer. But I think during that time, it's still just like the two roles in one guy. And because neither the skill or the technology are the same. The front end guys, they are just talking about the JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and the back end guys talking about like the C#, Java, .NET, microservice. So, but with the fast evolving of these tools, I think the boundary between them is blurring. For example, I think the first thing I need to thank is to the TypeScript, still from my previous employer. Yeah, I think that's the TypeScript is just the first time in history that both front-end and the back-end developers, they can use the same language to work together. Not they can, but they are willing to, because actually in JavaScript you already be able to do that. But for the backend, I think it's really hard, especially when your application grows to a certain level. It's just very hard to scale. So
Yeah.
the TypeScript did a good job for that. And also with the tools like Next.js and Remix, something like that, we can actually build our complete web application just in one framework. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And also, I think like the Prisma, I think Prisma, I think count it as the next generation of the ORM. I think like we would like to do is like with the Next.js or the TRPC and also the Supabase, of course also the ZenStack. We hope that we together could build the next generation of the web development. Yeah,
Nice.
I think that's our the long target.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome though. That's very cool. And I going back to what you were saying about TypeScript, I totally agree with just these advancements make things so much easier, that things that we didn't realize we needed before as JavaScript developers. I remember I was working on a team previously who was using vanilla JavaScript back when TypeScript was new. And a couple of us were toying around with TypeScript and we really liked it. The rest of the team was really scared and they didn't want to use it because it was bad. I mean, there's still people like that nowadays. That's still an argument for sure. But I remember we finally got a couple of the other team members to play with it, and it was like, whoa, I didn't know it could do this. So it is cool to see these things progress and make things a lot easier for developers.
Yeah, I think TypeScript for me is the biggest contribution that Microsoft has ever done to the open source community.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not sure whether purchasing GitHub is a good or bad thing. Someone
yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah, I see it. I see it as good until I have to buy a license for it.
Yeah,
then it's bad.
During the old time when I was in Microsoft is totally like anti open source community. You're not allowed to use anything outside of the Microsoft. Everything is just inside. So actually, that's part of the reason why I left Microsoft. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's more lively in the outside world.
Yeah. That's funny. Nice. Well, you know, I've got ZenStack, the website, pulled up right now. I just posted a link in the comments. I'm going to add this to the stream really quick. If anyone's interested, just sort of as we're talking through things, to actually look at the website and get some peek at the docs and stuff, the link's in the comments, and this is what you'll be sent to. I like the website design, by the way. It looks very nice and clean. This orange is cool.
But someone says the color is too light. Yeah, we don't have the designer. We just two developers.
Hey, well, this works here. Dark mode.
Yeah, that's better.
Very cool. So Jiasheng, did you have like some sort of a demo to show us what this is?
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Cool. Awesome.
It shows demo. I need to present screen.
Very cool.
Can you see my screen?
Let's see. Ooh, infinite screens. Yes.
Okay. Why? So the audience should be good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think probably before the demo, I was starting to. You guys can still see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see this architecture picture. Yeah, to give you guys a general idea of how it works. So basically, we create a new schema as a superset of the Prisma. So it's just fully compatible with the Prisma schema, and we added something is like the customer attributes and the access policy and the data validation. So the process is actually, I think it's the same as you use the Prisma. You just define the schema and you run the generate. But now instead of the Prisma generate, and you run the ZenStack generate. Under the hood, we also call the Prisma generate. and they will generate the Prisma schema. And then after that, it will be the same as what you guys are currently using the Prisma, like for the database migration, and all those things are still handled by the Prisma. And from the generating point of view, that we use the schema, the stack schema, to generate the several stuffs. The first thing is we will directly generate the front end client, like for the React. Now we just support for the React hooks and the TRPC client, and in the future we maybe also support other things. And also we will generate the database access API, and after the database API, it will go through the policy engine that from the access policy. So it makes sure that everything you call from the React hooks will go through the policy engine, which will do the access control and make sure the access is secured. And after that, it's still from the Prisma client. And we also do the integration with the popular framework. I think now we only support Next, but we are currently working on to support other framework like Next and Remix or Svelte Kit. Yeah, that's the general idea for this whole structure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this ZenStack schema up here on the top, is that like the actual schema file that you're writing in? Is this like like you won't be writing a prisma.schema file, it's some other kind of schema file?
Yeah, actually you write the ZenStack schema file, it will generate the Prisma schema file. It's a super site. Yeah, you can just write the same Prisma schema file, but then you don't have the access policy. So we just add things without modifying any existing things.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. So it generates that Prisma schema. You can apply that to the database via migrations. This part over here, this front end piece with these React hooks, and then how it relates to the database access API. Is this database access API something that's meant to be accessed directly, or is this pretty much purely to use through these React hooks?
Actually, now it could be accessed directly, but we recently got some requirement from the customer that they want the API to be like the open API. Yeah, or maybe some other guys actually ask, can we generate the GraphQL API? We are now working on it.
That's actually super cool. So like that's code generation, but almost to another level where you get this whole set of like policies and stuff with it, as well as your database schema. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Also, just curious, so the database, do you use the databases for row level security in the API, or is it now handled on the server side only?
It's actually handled by the generated code. We don't do any database level.
Okay. Gotcha. So I think what would help clear up some of that is, can you describe sort of what access policies are? I have a general understanding, but
so I will show that in the demo actually.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So that's probably the architecture. Don't worry, we have the full explanation in our website. So if you are curious, you could check the more detailed thing. This is just more like the headline for that.
Nice. Is there where in the website would that be? That way I could post a link to it right now in the comments in case people want to see that.
You mean the website for what?
For the more details. Oh, is this the page here? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we have got the whole document, this whole thing, I think.
Okay.
You go through one by one, probably.
Cool. Well, I'll post the link to those docs there so people can see that.
Okay. Okay. So let's went back to the demo part. Yeah. So the demo I'm going to give is a simple to-do demo. Yeah. Actually, yeah. You see, I already, to save the time, I already created the user in that. So for example, this is a Sabin account, and let's say we create a to-do list. Maybe let's think what's new in the Prisma. Okay, great. And we add something like talk with Jiasheng. Okay, how about we add in more one fun next guest?
That looks
Okay.
like my to-do list all the time anyway. So
Yeah. Okay, let's say this one is already done. Okay, so yeah, that's a demo, and also I have another user. It's me, for example. It's Jiasheng at ZenStack. Yeah, I can see this list actually created by the Sabin.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and also, by the way, yeah, when you see the create list, maybe you can create a public one so it can be seen by others, or you can create a private one. Let's say if we let's say the gene plan. Not sure why it would be private. But, maybe it's just too good to be seen.
Yeah.
Okay, the private one, let's say push up 100 times.
There you go. That's the secret right there. 100
Wow.
push-ups.
100 times.
I think that was actually the plan for One Punch Man, by the way, for those who watched the anime.
So you see this private list. So for my account, I just couldn't see it. I
Okay.
couldn't see the public one. Yeah, I use this one to give it some access control to illustrate. Yeah, and okay, that's the tree part is done. Let's go. Let me show you the code actually.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, should be this one. Yeah, this is a schema for ZenStack. We called it a Z model.
Okay.
And you can see, is it big enough? Can you guys clear?
I think it looks fine. Yep.
Okay. So it's, yeah, I think as the audience should be all familiar with the Prisma. So it will be so much easier for me. Yeah, because as you can see, we call ourselves the enhancement for the Prisma. So probably I will just show you guys the enhanced part because all the other part will be the same.
Cool.
Yeah. Like you see, for this simple to do, probably we will have the 3 models. Of course, everyone will have the user model. And now for the to-do list model, so it's a one-to-many relationship. One user can have many lists. You can see its relationship is also the same as Prisma. And also the last one is the to-do. Yeah, just the one list can have many to-dos. It's still the same. It has the relationship with the user and also the list. Yeah, the schema is very simple. Yeah. So for the enhanced part, I think the first thing I would want to mention is for the customer attribute, because I guess that's probably the how we got be found by the Prisma, because I write a post and put it to the issues for the customer attribute support in the Prisma's GitHub. Yeah, it's a very long thread and popular issues still not be resolved yet. Yeah. Yeah, you can see some of the attributes, they are the same as the Prisma, like the ID and default, but you can see some new one, like this password. Yeah, by the way, you can see it's got the hint for you. And
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, you can also get the go-to definition part. Yeah, this is a standard library of the model, because all the attributes, we won't give the users the same ability to do the extension. So you can just define, this is all the attribute we already supported. You can also use the same syntax to define your own. So the password is just me, whenever the data, I will just to hash it before store it in the database.
Okay, so if you wanted to define your own, you would actually go into this file and write it here, or is there another
you can just write in whichever the model file. You can just write in here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's just the standard one we already supported.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah, and when using the attribute, the next thing is the most important thing is for the access control policy. And this is the policy looks like. So now actually there are only 2 policies, and the allow policy and the deny policy. So for the allow policy, it means that if the condition is true, then you get allowed to access this data. So for example, for the user, of course, we need to allow anyone to create a new user, because before a user, it's just an anonymous one. They don't have any information in the database, but you still need to allow him to sign sign up for his account, right? That's why we need to have it to the create. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot to mention. So the first parameter is just for all the CRUD thing. It's create, read, update, delete. Or you can use the all for all of them. Yeah,
Nice.
and I forgot to mention the one thing why we build the ZenStack is after the building several products in the PT-Mind, we found out that pretty much of the time are spent on the CRUD operations. Whenever you add a new feature or you add a new entities, you need to have those CRUD operations. And we hope that for those part, we can get rid of to let the developers just focus on what really matters. So the CRUD things should be handled by the schema. Yeah, that's why this allowed access control looks like this. And
Awesome.
so next is the read. So the read, you can see this is a special thing called auth. The auth is it's also the function declaration like this. It gives you the current login user. So it's the user model is a special one. If you have any user system, I guess most of web applications should have that one. Then you get to use this auth one. It represents the current user who is initial this API call. So it means for the read, it means that if all the registered user could be able to see other users, because as in my demo, you can see my account, I can still see the public to-do list created by the Sabin, right? So I need to know, okay, the author for that to-do list is Sabin. That's why we need to be able to read other users. Yeah, and the last one is just the full access. If the auth equals to this, means you are the owner for this thing, then you definitely get the full control of this entity. Yeah.
Gotcha. So how does that auth function actually determine who the current user is?
The auth function is because we do the integration with the Next.js, and in Next.js, just use the ID to retrieve all the user entities from the database.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. And the next thing is list. So the first two is very obvious, so I'm just going to skip it. And you can see this is a special one. It means that only the public list could be seen by the others. That's why in my account, if Sabin create a private list, I just cannot see it. So this is which takes effect. And also you can see for the to-do, this should be the same. Like it only allow you to see the public one. And you see actually the good thing is that in the expression part is very powerful. You can not only access the field of this module, it also allows you to access the relation field. You can use the list.owner, means only the owner of the list will have the full access for this to do. Yeah, that's some parser thing you do. And
when you're typing this out, do you get any sort of autocomplete as you drill down into those things?
Some level, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, perfect.
Not as good as the Prisma. Oh, yeah, by the way, actually, all these things I need to give the credit to another open source project. I need to show it. Yeah, this long game. Yeah, they have a solid solution for the language, including the VS Code extension. So if you are going to create your own DSL, I think in TypeScript, that's the best one I can find for now, and I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Because actually, they have also a very good response. For several times, I create a GitHub issue or ask a question, they're always gonna return me within an hour. So yeah, it's really cool project and cool people. Yeah, you definitely try it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Okay. So that's probably the schema part. So you see, previously we do the things we define the database schema, right? The next step probably we need to define the API, whether you use GraphQL or we use the RESTful API. You still need to design it. Then the third step is just to implementation for all the APIs, although the most part of it is just the CRUD, but you still need to have to do that. And then the last step is to write the front-end code to talk with the APIs. But now, actually, I think with the help of ZenStack, you can just have in most cases, I think you just have the two steps. It's just the one define the schema, and then define the access control. Then the next step is just to write the front-end code. Yeah, because that's exactly all you can do for this demo. By the way, I forget to mention the demo stack is use Next.js and Next.js and the Prisma, or you can just create it with create T3. It's very popular now. Yeah, except we don't use the TRPC, but also we can support to generate the TRPC route if you like. But I think if you don't use that, you can directly use the React hook we generated for you. Okay, so I will show you how the actually one thing you also need to do is just this one line code to mount the API we generated for the front end. It's just in this route under the model. So all the API calling from the React hooks goes through here. So you can see we call the enhanced Prisma because we add the access control layer above the Prisma. So it makes sure every API call will only get the data is allowed to get defined in the schema.
Okay.
So that's all part for the backend. And then now you can just focus on the front-end code. Yeah, just you can also use get server-side pops. Still in the server side, if you want to you can still use the Prisma, but then it means that you will lose the access control restriction. You just could get whatever data you in the query because it's directly run in the server side. But if you want to achieve the same thing as you do in the React hooks in the front end, you just use this get enhanced Prisma function call. It's just a wrapper around the Prisma. Then you do the same query. It will also apply the access control in this query. Make sure you only get the data you are allowed to get. So because you see in all these queries, we just use normal fundamental things. We don't need to apply any filter in that to say I only get the data I can see, or I only get the public data, because all those things will be handled under the hood in the generated code. Yeah, this is a list, and you can see still the same in the to-do list. And also, by the way, to illustrate, I don't do any restriction from the front end, meaning that for everything, no matter delete or update, you can just do it in the front end. But maybe it will not allow you to do that. So I will show you that in the demo. Okay, let's say this is my account. This is Sabin's to-do list and to-do. Okay, let's say if I want to update this as complete, I click it. You see, it's just showing you the runtime errors. That's a lot, I guess. Let's open the developer console to see it. Yeah, you can see it's just unauthorized error 403. And also you can see from the console backend log, you can see it's the denied policy because it's failed for the update check. You don't have the access to do the update to that to do because it doesn't belong to you.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's the same thing for the delete. If you want to do delete, you can see still the same. It doesn't allow you to do that. Yeah, but with if you are the owner, of course, you can just simply do it. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so the last part. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah.
I have a question, by the way, before we continue. So I can see that there's an error code P2004. Is that generated from ZenStack or is that from Prisma? Because I think Prisma has
that's
a similar error code.
Yeah. That's actually a good question. That's a special error code we generated. You see, so we let the front end know. So in the real case, you definitely in the front-end developer, you need to catch this error, right? So if it's P2004, you show the user, okay, you are not allowed to do that. But yeah, maybe another way, you just to disable this checkbox for the other users. That's also the choice. Depends on, It's a special code we do that, meaning you just reject by the policy.
Nice. That's actually really cool.
Okay. Okay, so the last part I would want to show you, let's see if we can just change some of the behavior by changing the policy. So let's say we allow other people to update your public to-dos. Let's see, we can add a policy. Oh, this is stupid. I don't want this. Can be updated by anyone. Public. Oh, this is nice. You see, Copilot could even know how to write the policy class.
Gotta love Copilot.
Yeah, it's actually correct, actually. Okay, so let's add this policy, and then let's just run do it. Yeah, it's just regenerate the policy code from the updated schema. Yeah.
Also, just curious. When you run Prisma migrate dev or db push, Prisma usually regenerates Prisma client. Do you also regenerate the API or the policies included as well?
Yes, correct. Yeah, cool. And also, by the way, all those things you can see, you can still run all the Prisma's command like the db browse. Yeah, it's still the same. You can see all the data we just created.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool part of Prisma, actually. Yeah, okay, let's still run it again. Okay, now you see. Okay, still this is my account and this is Sabin's to do. And now this time I can just update because it doesn't allow it. But still, if you try to delete it, it still fails because we don't allow the delete. We only allow the update.
Very nice. That's cool.
Okay. And I got one last thing to demo. Another scenario. Let's see. We want the private list to be C, although I don't know why. We want the private list to-do list to see, but not the to-do under that list. So how about, I think I want just going to get rid of this one. Okay, let's regenerate. Yeah, you see, now I can see the private to-do list Sabin created. But if you open it, you just cannot see the to-do because the policy, we do not allow that.
That's so cool to see that working without any code changes at all. Other than
that's exactly the part I want to show to the users. Yeah,
this is all really cool. I can see why you call this like an enhancement on top of Prisma, because this, I feel like Prisma itself already provides a really easy experience to do all of this magic sort of with your database, but this adds that one extra layer to like automatically make your application just work based on your schema. So it sort of expands the reach of what Prisma does to also the code level as well. So this is really cool to see.
By the way, I want to mention that demo is actually a simplified version of this completely to do SaaS demo.
Mm.
Actually, yeah, if you guys are interested, you can just check it now in the GitHub. The schema will be a little bit complicated because it adds the space support, or in technical way, it should be the tenant isolation, because you involve the space concept. So every people will going to belong in the space. They can only see everything under the space. Yeah, and you have the space user. And because I didn't demo it, it contains some advanced feature to use for this syntax. You see, it's called the collection prediction expression. It's more like I think you can think it as the collection filter in the Prisma, like the some not every. Yeah, it's exactly the same. Like I only allow the people if they belongs to the current space, they can access this data, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and, yeah, it's a fully functional one, and also we have the deployed version. You can just play it around. Yeah, hopefully
Interesting. I might just put a Stripe payment and start charging people for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still working. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much all I need to demo.
Yeah. Hey, that demo was perfect. I mean, I had looked a little bit at ZenStack before and had played around with a little bit of the docs, but seeing a lot of this stuff explained was actually getting me pretty excited, because this is exactly what we want to see people doing. Because Prisma, as we'd mentioned sort of when you first started talking, we like building tools that other people build tools on top of. And that's exactly what Prisma is. It interacts with your database, but really it's a building block that you can build your applications on top of. So we love to see projects like this where people take our product and sort of expand upon it and make something very useful for somebody. So this kind of stuff is really exciting. And I could see myself even using this to get rid of half the code that I normally do in my application.
Yeah, that's cool. Let us know if you meet any problems or have any suggestions for that.
Yeah. I posted a link in the chat a little while back to the GitHub. So if people do check this out, and if you run into any issues, they have an issues section there. I definitely encourage anyone who is doing sort of like this access stuff to like access policy things and want to add custom attributes to check it out, give it a try. And I also posted a link to the ZenStack Discord. I've joined it myself. There's a pretty healthy Discord channel going on there that looks like it's growing. So if you do use it and you want to interact with people who are using it, get some help, definitely join that.
Yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And then I know we're quite a bit over, but one last question for you. You had mentioned you're the co-founder. Who else founded this with you? Because I'd like to link their social or something.
That's my friend Yiming, actually. Yeah, we actually have the similar background. Almost all my career is overlapping with him, because when I joined Microsoft, he is already there. Actually, yeah, he's older than me. Actually, not only the friend, he's actually the mentor for me, and keep learning from him. Yeah, he's very excellent developer. And
awesome.
To be honest, he is the one actually wrote the most of part of the code of the ZenStack. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's super cool. Very awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was really cool to watch. I actually got pretty excited watching through this, and I want to go play with it on my own now. So we really appreciate it. We hope we keep in touch as your product grows. I'll definitely be playing with it and providing feedback where I can. And I encourage other people watching to do so as well. But I think for now, we'll let you go. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, sure. You too.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Thank you. Bye.
Cool. So with that, we're getting pretty close to the end of this slightly longer stream than we normally do. I just have one more quick thing that I'm going to go through. I've been working on a testing series. So it's a series all dedicated to writing different kinds of tests in your applications that use Prisma. So I'm really quick going to pull up a blog, and I'll share my screen. So right now we have 3 different parts of this series out. We have this article on integration testing. We have one on unit testing. And then there's also one on just in general how to mock Prisma Client properly, where you still get all of the types. I also have a 4th article coming out, and I'm hoping to release it today. It's all wrapped up and finished. Just got to push it out. And that's going to cover end-to-end testing. I won't go too much into the details of each of these now, as we're pretty over on time, but I do take you through I walk you through building a whole set of tests for an application that's already pre-built. So we sort of take a look at what each individual kind of testing is, which things you should be looking for when you're writing your tests, and then how to actually perform those tests against your Prisma Client queries and functions. So if you are interested, or if you've had trouble in the past writing tests with Prisma Client, give these a look. I'll be posting the next one today, and soon there will be the last part of the series, which wraps it all up by teaching you how to set up a CI/CD pipeline to actually run these tests as you push code to GitHub. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And if you're interested, give it a look and let me know what you think. If there's anything you think should be added or changed or something like that, feel free to shoot me a DM on Twitter or even on our Slack. If you want to message me there, I'd be happy to talk with you about what you think about this. Cool. Yeah, I think that's all that I had about that, though.
One minor comment on the testing series. It was an eye-opening series for me as well, because I know little on testing, because most of the tutorials out there usually have arbitrary examples like some, which isn't usually helpful, but this one was helpful for me indeed. Yeah.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I know even for people who regularly write tests, testing is a big black box that not a lot of people understand great. I definitely didn't. So writing this series has been a good helper for me to sort of refresh my brain on how to do a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that was good for you. But yeah, do you have any last words, Alex, before we close out this stream?
Try out a JSON protocol. Let us know what you think. If anything breaks, let us know. Yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for hopping on with me, Alex. This has been a good stream. And we'll see you guys all on the next one. So take care.
Take care. Ciao.